Be prepared, that was the motto I grew up with in the Boy Scouts. They drummed into us things like loyalty, honesty, kindness, and cleanliness. And while all that sounded good when I was 12, I've come to believe they left out a few truths, things like not being naive, not being stupid, and definitely not trusting too easily. I never thought I'd find myself snooping through my wife Evelyn's phone. It's just not something I do. She knows that, which is probably why she felt safe adding new passcodes and privacy settings. Normally, I'd respect that. But she had an upcoming work trip to Paris, and I couldn't remember the name of her hotel. I didn't want to ask her again and hear the usual jab about my forgetfulness. And truth be told, something about this trip had me feeling uneasy. We've been married 5 years, and this was going to be the longest stretch we'd ever been apart. I had been thinking about doing something sweet, maybe sending flowers to her hotel room. But the thought made my stomach turn. Paris, the city of love, and I wasn't the one sharing it with her. Aiden was. Aiden, her coworker, was going with her. And that's when I cracked. I used our anniversary as her phone passcode. She'd never suspected, and sure enough, I got in. I wasn't even looking for trouble, just the hotel name. But I found a whole lot more than that. Emails. Dozens of them. Between her and Aiden. And they weren't subtle. They spelled out everything: plans, flirtation, love notes, even sex. In work emails. From 2 legal professionals, no less. Evelyn's a lawyer. Aiden's a paralegal. They're both trained to catch this kind of behavior in others. But here they were, talking about romantic evenings in Paris, using their company accounts like it was nothing. The one subject line that hit me like a punch to the gut said, "Why don't you just ditch the Boy Scouts so we can have real time together?" Aiden had written that. Evelyn replied, "I feel safe with him." That's when the rage hit me. I sat there, phone in hand, unable to breathe. I replied to the message myself, just a simple smiley face. Then I printed the email downstairs with our Wi-Fi printer and tucked it into my laptop bag. Evidence. Legal habit. Always keep the evidence. It was then that my mind shifted into planning mode. I had a decision to make. I thought about confronting her directly. I thought about pretending to do something romantic and then turning the tables. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't satisfy me. This was bigger than that. I was hurt, yes, but I was also a lawyer. I needed leverage. With time ticking and Evelyn due back from her morning run, I moved fast. I packed a few bags and started gathering every important document I could find. Financial records, pay stubs, her student loan papers, everything. I didn't even fully know why, I just knew I'd need them. Back upstairs, I pretended to be calm. She was in the kitchen, still sweaty from her jog, sipping a Gatorade. She looked as beautiful as ever, brown hair pulled back, glowing skin. I used to love that look. But all I could think of now was her betrayal. I told her I had to go out of town, that a client needed help prepping a witness for trial, that I'd be gone at least a few days. She looked surprised, maybe a little nervous. I watched her carefully. She joked about sending my resume to her firm. I didn't laugh. She moved to hug me, and I stepped aside like I didn't notice. She mentioned dinner plans. I said I'd eat on the road. She said goodbye without kissing me, claiming she felt a cold coming on. I walked out the door, waving back, pretending to be frustrated about work. I had a hunch she was already texting Aiden before I even turned the corner. Once I had some distance, I found a strip mall with a quiet cafe and ordered a coffee. I always think clearer with pen and paper in front of me, so I made a list of everything I needed to do. One thing was clear: reconciliation wasn't on it. The only thing I wanted now was justice, or maybe revenge. Then my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. A man on the other end introduced himself as Liam Parker. Said he worked in real estate, specifically buying older homes and knocking them down to build what he called modern family spaces, which I took to mean overpriced suburban castles. I thought it was some kind of scam at first. But then he said he'd driven by our place and wanted to make an offer. I almost laughed. That house? The one Evelyn picked right before the wedding? The one with the backyard overlooking the woods and the treehouse I built, hoping we'd one day fill it with our kids? The irony hit me hard. But I didn't say no. We set a meeting for Sunday morning. He'd already scouted the property and didn't even need to go inside. He just wanted to talk. For a second, I saw the whole thing as symbolic. A clean demolition. Start fresh. No memories. No ghost of a future that would never happen. And just like that, I had my next move. Growing up in the Boy Scouts, we were taught to value things like discipline, resourcefulness, and the ability to keep cool under pressure. Funny how those old lessons came rushing back to me now. I was facing the ugliest betrayal of my life, and instead of blowing up, I was drawing on that training, plotting, staying sharp, thinking like a soldier lying in wait for the right time to strike. I decided it was time to do some recon. I stepped out of the cafe and knocked over my empty coffee cup on purpose, just to play it off like I needed a break. Out in my car, where I had some privacy, I called an old contact, Lemuel Gray. Used to be a private investigator I worked with back when I did corporate law. He helped us out on pro bono cases, folks who couldn't afford justice otherwise. Solid guy. He picked up, and after I filled him in, his response was just as stunned as I was when I first found out. He couldn't believe Evelyn was doing this. Lemuel offered to take care of everything, no charge, as a thank you for something I'd helped him with a few years back. I gave him the layout of our property, especially the path through the woods and the creek that led to our backyard. I told him how you could get a clear view of our bedroom window from there, the same window Evelyn never bothered to cover when she practiced her martial arts moves. I also mentioned I'd be putting up a camera on the front of the house, just in case anything else went down. Once Lemuel was on board, I made my next call to Jack, a divorce lawyer I'd heard good things about. At first, he thought I was calling for a referral. But once I spelled it out, told him my wife was cheating, and I needed a lawyer, he got serious. We set up a time to meet the next morning, and he explained what he'd need: solid proof, a clear record of infidelity, and a strategy to deal with what was sure to be an ugly financial battle. Evelyn had resources, friends in the legal world. We had to be ready. Then I reached out to Olivia. I hadn't talked to her in a while. She used to be close with Evelyn, but they drifted apart. Turned out, Evelyn's selfishness had pushed Olivia away too. I told her the basics, enough to get her on my side. She didn't hesitate, just said she was in. Even cracked a joke, said I still knew how to make her laugh. I promised to buy her and her partner dinner once I made it through the storm. I checked into a quiet hotel outside Fairfax, someplace far enough off the radar that Evelyn wouldn't think to look. Once I was settled, I walked to a nearby Mexican place, though it leaned more Central American if you asked me. I ordered a plate I knew would upset my stomach and a round of tequila to match. That's when things got interesting. The bartender sent over a top-shelf shot. I looked up and realized I recognized him. He'd always been at the back of the courtroom during one of our firm's old cases, nursing a drink and keeping to himself. Now he was walking over with a grin like we were old friends. He sat across from me without asking and thanked me for helping his cousin get out of a bad marriage. Said the guy she was with had ended up injured real bad while locked up. Made my skin crawl, the way he said it with that half-smile. We got to talking. I told him about Evelyn. He saw the notebook on the table, filled with plans, lists, details, and asked what I was after. Justice? Money? Revenge? I was drunk enough to be honest. I want to break her nose, I said. Black in her eyes. He nodded, calm as can be. You do that, you're the one going to jail, he warned. Let me help you another way. His name was Carlos Fernandez, though he said some folks just called him Eltra. I made a joke about selling my soul for help. He just chuckled and called it professional courtesy. Then he asked me for the details, Evelyn's full name, her daily schedule, our home address. He told me to leave a number at the bar and get a burner phone. Said not to come back. I didn't argue. Later, I updated Lemuel on everything. Told him I'd be staying close to home until Evelyn boarded her flight to Paris. He already knew which hotel she and Aiden were booked at, but he didn't say how he found out. Before we hung up, he asked me something that gave me pause. Is there any chance you're going to forgive her? He said. Any chance this ends with you giving her mercy? I didn't answer right away. I sat there thinking about everything, the lies, the betrayal, the life we were supposed to have. No, I finally said. No chance. He relaxed after that. I think he just wanted to know what kind of job he was doing. When the bill came, Eltra paid and waved off the waitress. I left a big tip. He handed me a bottle of tequila on the way out and told me to use it wisely. Sunday morning, I woke up surprisingly clear-headed. I met Jack and Lemuel at Jack's office at 10 on the dot. Lemuel had good news, or bad, depending how you looked at it. He had video proof. Evelyn and Aiden, in our treehouse, doing exactly what I had feared. He handed me the DVD and warned me not to watch it. I didn't ask why. I already knew. Jack looked at me, worried. You sure about all this? I nodded. Let's move forward. File for divorce. Grounds, adultery. But don't serve her yet. Wait until Monday afternoon. Let me handle the rest. Jack reminded me again, he's not a criminal lawyer. If I did something stupid, he couldn't protect me. You'd be surprised, I said with a smile, walking out the door. After that, I drove across town to meet Liam Parker, the guy who wanted to buy our house. He made an offer that was more than generous. Over $100,000 in profit and no agent commissions. Evelyn would be thrilled. I told him I'd get the paperwork ready fast. By the time I left Liam's office, I checked my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Not even from Evelyn. That meant she was still busy with Aiden. Perfect. I called Lars, my boss, and told him I needed 2 weeks off, no wiggle room. Either I get it or I'm done. After some back and forth, he agreed. Sunday night and Monday, I ignored every voicemail from Evelyn. I needed my energy for Tuesday morning. And thanks to Lamuel's outdoor cam, I knew Aiden had stayed the night again. Let her enjoy it. It would be her last. I figured Aiden would be out the door by 8 a.m. sharp, with Evelyn leaving around 8:30. That gave me the perfect window to make my move. At 7 a.m. on the dot, I let myself into the house like I owned the place, because, well, I still technically did. Honey, I'm home, I called out in the brightest voice I could muster. I heard quick footsteps above, then Evelyn appeared at the top of the stairs in her robe, looking startled and drained. She forced a smile, acting like everything was fine, but I could see the panic in her eyes. I pretended not to notice the 2 wine glasses still sitting in the living room. I headed to the dining room, spreading out papers on the table like I had business to attend to. Evelyn stood awkwardly nearby, probably trying to figure out how to sneak Aiden out without me catching on. Right then, there was a knock at the door. I told her to get it. She hesitated, but when she opened the door, there stood Olivia, cheerful, confident, professional. Evelyn didn't know what to think. Olivia came in, gave me a polite smile, and joined me at the table. I told Evelyn we were going over some financial paperwork and prepping a few things for her upcoming trip. I even mentioned refinancing the house. The mention of logistics seemed to ease Evelyn's nerves a little. Evelyn cracked a joke about me being her little Boy Scout, organized, predictable. I smiled and handed her a pen, pointing out where to sign. Take your time reading through it, I said calmly. But I know you trust me. She barely skimmed them before signing every page. Olivia nodded and quietly notarized each one. Evelyn offered us coffee, but we both politely declined. Once it was done, Olivia packed up her briefcase, gave me a subtle smile while Evelyn wasn't looking, and headed out the door. I told Evelyn I had a conference call and would be working downstairs. She looked visibly relieved, probably thinking she had just enough time to get her little boyfriend out the back door before I came back upstairs. I acted like I didn't hear the garage open or the rushed footsteps across the kitchen floor. When I heard the shower running upstairs, I picked up my bag, slipped out the basement door, and left. Quiet and clean. A couple hours later, after a strong cup of coffee and a hot plate of eggs, I was back at Jack's law office. When I laid the signed forms in front of him, Jack blinked like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Evelyn had basically signed her rights away. She gave up alimony, her share of the house sale, and any claim to my retirement. She got to keep her own accounts and her car. That was about it. Jack looked over the documents again, surprised at how willingly she'd signed. He kept glancing back at me, like trying to piece together how I'd pulled it off. She's a smart woman, I said. She knew what she was signing. Jack didn't push it. He moved on to Lamuel's affidavit and the report with photos and a DVD. He said he'd keep the DVD out of the electronic court system for now to avoid attention. With Evelyn flying to Paris in a couple weeks, we both agreed that now was the time to move fast and quiet. Jack mentioned pulling some strings at the courthouse. He knew a clerk named Noah who might help fast-track things if we needed to file before Evelyn caught on. I told him to hold off on serving her, just get the paperwork in and ready. Afterward, I stopped back at the house to grab more paperwork and quietly signed off the house to Liam Parker. Closing was set for the first week Evelyn would be in France. That week, I took care of myself, worked out, read, cooked meals that didn't come from a microwave. It was the first time in a long while I actually felt like myself. Lamuel updated me Saturday. Aiden had come back to the house. I thanked him, barely even flinching. Soon, Evelyn boarded her flight. A private investigator confirmed she made it to the airport. Once she was out of the country, I cleared the house, packed up everything I wanted, sent the rest to storage, and let Liam's crew handle selling off the furniture. I went back for one last walkthrough. When the place was empty, I gathered up our wedding album, framed pictures, and her dress. I carried them to the fire pit under the old tree house she used to love, poured lighter fluid over the gown, lit a match, and watched it all burn. By the next day, the house was officially sold. I used the power of attorney Evelyn had so trustingly signed, deposited the money into my personal account, and closed out our joint accounts. That same week, construction crews came in and tore the house down. Even the tree had to go for the new gazebo the buyers wanted. Funny how fast things change. While Evelyn was off enjoying Paris, I avoided her calls and gave short, vague replies to the few messages I couldn't dodge. Eltra kept me updated. He said Evelyn and Aiden both seemed rattled. Evelyn was starting to suspect something was off. Eltra asked about her wedding ring. I told him I had it and wouldn't be giving it back. He said he might know someone who'd appreciate it. I told him to go ahead. 2 days before Evelyn was supposed to fly home, I got the divorce decree. Jack had worked fast. Eltra called shortly after. "You need a vacation?" he said. I agreed. I booked a room in Manhattan and spent a few days catching up with old college buddies. We drank too much, ate like kings, and I let my credit card take the hit. I tipped the hotel staff enough to be remembered. Then I mailed a DVD to Evelyn's parents, a little home movie of me burning her dress and the wedding album. Late one night, sitting outside a cafe in Little Italy, my phone rang. It was Evelyn's dad. "Where are you?" he barked. "Evelyn's in the hospital." "What happened?" I asked, keeping my tone calm. "She and that coworker of hers, Aiden, were kidnapped at the airport. Got taken, beaten. He's in bad shape." "And Evelyn?" He hesitated. "They tattooed words on her disgusting once. Then one of them broke her nose and gave her 2 black eyes." I didn't say anything at first. I couldn't help but feel like it was karma. Maybe fate giving her a taste of what betrayal felt like. "I'm sorry to hear that," I finally said. "But we're divorced now. I filed last week. Maybe you should ask your daughter why." He was quiet for a long time. Then he exploded. Told me she was my problem now. I disagreed and hung up after a few more shouts. That was the last I heard from him. The city had started to wear on me. I shot off an email to Lars and told the firm to stick it. I was done. Respectfully, of course. I picked up new camping gear, had the hotel hold my luggage for a bit, and took off for the Adirondacks. It had been years since I camped, and Evelyn had always hated the outdoors anyway. Now, I finally had space. No more lies. No more compromise. Just trees, sky, and the trail ahead. I spent nearly 2 months off the grid after everything went down. I turned off my phone, stayed in the woods, and let the world spin without me. At first, I thought some unhinged stranger had gotten hold of my ex-wife's phone. There were dozens, maybe hundreds, of messages, most of them full of panicked rambling, crying, and frantic begging. I listened to 1 or 2, then deleted the rest. There were emails, too. Piles of them. Reading a few lines, I thought her account had to be hacked. Who could type that much nonsense and expect someone to read it all? It was like watching someone unravel in real time. All I could do was hope she got the help she clearly needed. Fast forward 8 weeks. I'm having drinks with Lemuel and Jack. That's when Jack hit me with a curveball. He dropped our divorce attorney, sent me the finalized papers by certified mail. I had to admit, I hadn't even checked the mailbox yet. Jack didn't take that well. Called it a mistake. Lemuel went a step further and said it was a disaster. Apparently, Evelyn had visited the old house with her parents and didn't realize the security camera was still active. When she saw the empty lot, she fell apart, collapsed on the ground, curled up, crying uncontrollably. The tantrum only got worse when the construction crew arrived. And when the workers noticed the tattoos on her face and started laughing, that was meltdown number 3. Jack pulled up the security footage. There she was, sobbing, with that broken nose still taped up and the words "Strumpet" and "I love face" tattooed across her face in blue and red ink. Clear as day. It was hard to watch, and harder not to. Then Jack told me about the day Evelyn stormed into his office with a couple of high-powered attorneys. No appointment, just a lot of noise. He made them wait 15 minutes and calmly loaded the Glock in his desk drawer. Virginia laws being what they are, it's always better to be cautious. When they finally sat down, the shouting started. Talk about emergency filings, ethical complaints, motions for contempt. Evelyn sat there with ink all over her face, screaming that I never gave her the chance to explain. Jack asked one simple question. Which part of the paperwork was false? Silence. He followed it up. Are you denying the affair? Another beat of silence. Then he played the video, the one Lemuel captured. Evelyn and Aiden in our bed. She was caught cold. They looked stunned. Clearly, None of them had reviewed the case file thoroughly. Evelyn started crying again, saying I never let her talk. Jack told her it didn't matter. I didn't want a reason, I wanted an end. Then she tried to claim I had no right to sell the house, or burn the wedding photos, or torch the dress. Jack slid the power of attorney across the desk. She signed it, and the property agreement gave me full say over everything in the house. Do you deny your signature? Jack asked. No, she admitted. Then your defense is what? That you didn't read what you signed, he asked. Imagine how that's going to play out in Cross. She shut down. He pulled out another affidavit, one where she admitted her lover was in the bedroom while she signed the papers. When he asked if that was true, she fainted. They had to call an ambulance. She refused to go to the hospital, shouting about the tattoos and how her boyfriend had been attacked. Jack reassured her that I was out of town and, as far as he knew, had nothing to do with what happened to Aiden. He guessed that maybe Aiden had gotten on the wrong side of some jealous husband, or a woman who thought Evelyn was the problem. The detectives asked Lamuel for a copy of the tape, but interest faded fast. Neither Evelyn nor Aiden could remember much. They took a cab from the airport, and the next thing they knew, Aiden was hospitalized, and Evelyn was waking up in a sketchy hotel, badly beaten. Hotel charges were all on Evelyn's card, including minibar and room service. When I got back to the city, I learned that Evelyn was getting laser treatment in her parents' basement. It wasn't cheap. Jack rolled his eyes, and Lamuel laughed when I commented on it. Aiden didn't fare much better. He suffered multiple concussions and now needed physical therapy. They both got fired. The arbitration they were working on fell apart. Files missing, exhibits incomplete, witness statements lost. The firm took a big hit to keep future clients happy. Lamuel joked that one day I should tell Evelyn who she was really messing with. I just smiled and said, just a Boy Scout doing my duty. We talked about grabbing dinner. I owed them that much. As I left, Olivia surprised me by saying she didn't actually have a boyfriend. I said, well, then maybe we stop by the post office on the way home. She asked why. I pulled a card from the glove compartment, flashed her the old Boy Scouts emblem, and said, just checking on a friend.